Hello everyone, my name is Faria Noor, and today I'll be presenting my critical literature review on the role of information and communication technology tools, or ICT tools, more specifically chat and instant messaging platforms, in supporting the communication needs of virtual project teams. This topic has become increasingly relevant as virtual and hybrid work structures have become normalized globally. My goal today is to evaluate how well these everyday ICT tools align with established project communication requirements and what limitations still remain despite their widespread adoption. Before I begin, I'd like to start with a scenario. A project manager, let's call her Jane, started leading a global virtual project team, spread across 6 time zones. On their very first week, she sent what she thought was a simple message in their team chat. Let's touch base about the requirements. Something feels off. By the next morning, chaos had erupted. One developer thought he was in trouble. Another interpreted it as a request to redo all the requirements. And a third didn't see the message at all because it was buried under dozens of GIFs, quick updates, and side conversations. Jane spent hours clarifying misunderstandings that came from one short chat message. That moment captures exactly why I chose this topic. We rely on chat and IM tools more than ever, but they don't always support the clarity, trust, and structure that project communication actually requires. To begin, let's further examine the motivation behind this review. Virtual teams now rely heavily on chat and instant messaging tools. These tools are fast, convenient, and widely available, but convenience often masks deeper communication risk, ultimately contributing to misalignment with key project management communication requirements. This is why understanding how ICT tools shape communication, coordination, knowledge sharing, and team relationships is essential, especially as the widespread adoption of remote work and virtual project teams is on the rise. At the same time, organizations continue adopting these tools faster than policies, governance mechanisms, or training can keep up. In fact, several recent studies on virtual teamwork, digital collaboration, and software engineering support that communication is still one of the biggest predictors of project success, and also one of the most common causes of project failure when communication breaks down. This gap between tool usage and formal digital communication strategies within virtual workspaces forms the core motivation for this review. This work is guided by 3 research questions that structure and guide the rest of this presentation. The first of which being, to what extent do chat and instant messaging tools meet PMBOK communication requirements? This question ensures that the evaluation is grounded in a widely recognized project communication framework. The second research question being, what key challenges emerge when virtual teams heavily rely on informal ICT tools? This includes issues such as trust, miscommunication, and information mismanagement. The third being, which complementary ICT tools, features, or strategies can help mitigate these communication and security gaps? This provides space to examine solutions and compare past approaches. Before diving deeper, I'll clarify 5 key terms and concepts as they appear repeatedly throughout this presentation. The first being ICT tools. These include digital systems used for communication, information sharing, and storage ranging from messaging applications to video conferencing platforms. Virtual project teams. Teams distributed across different locations or time zones who rely on ICT tools to coordinate work. Chat and instant messaging tools. These are informal text-based tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or Google Meet, which enable fast, real-time exchanges between peers. Project communication management. As per PMBOK, this refers to the processes used to plan, manage, monitor, and control project information flows. These project communication requirements form the analytical framework used to assess the use of ICT tools. And finally, data governance, which includes laws, regulations, and frameworks governing ethical use and appropriate data management protocols. These next 2 slides present the PMBOK communication requirements that serve as the analytical framework for this review. These criteria include ease of use, or adequate training supports provided and tools and systems fit for the task. Frequent communication, ensuring evolving and emerging project details are communicated quickly and often. Active listening, which clarifies, confirms, and removes barriers to comprehension. Nonverbal cues, or in other words, body language, gestures, tone, and facial cues that convey a message. Interactive communication, which encompasses real-time multi-directional collaborative exchanges, including two-way and many-to-many interactions. Push and pull communications that distribute readily accessible information for recipients to read and access at their own discretion. Clarity of purpose, which works to define the purpose of tailored communications. An atmosphere of trust to cultivate an environment that supports knowledge sharing, protection of sensitive and confidential information, through established policies outlining appropriate use, security, and protection of proprietary data and information, and information storage, retrieval, and disposition, ensuring a means of managing and monitoring project information. This framework allows us to compare the strengths and limitations of chat and IM tools against formal project communication expectations. It also provides structure for synthesizing findings from the broader literature on digital collaboration within virtual workspaces. Trust emerges as one of the most consistent challenges in virtual teams. Across multiple studies, including those examining virtual project teams such as software engineering teams, lack of trust undermines coordination, slows decision making, and increases conflict. Chat tools, while efficient, are often too lean to support trust formation. They lack emotional cues, tone, and visual signals that help people interpret intent. Research on effective virtual team collaboration consistently shows that visual communication tools such as video conferencing lead to higher trust scores than purely text-based tools. In early project stages, when relationships and norms are still forming, teams benefit significantly from richer communication modalities. This shows a gap between what chat tools offer and what is required to build and maintain trust. The second major challenge relates to miscommunication and lack of clarity. Virtual teams have a higher risk of misunderstandings because they rely more heavily on written text, which, as stated earlier, removes tone of voice, pacing, facial expressions, and contextual cues. Studies consistently show that role ambiguity, unclear expectations, and misaligned assumptions arise more frequently in virtual teams. Chat tools accelerate communication, but this speed often increases ambiguity rather than reducing it. In addition, research shows that the growing use of text-based tools increases miscommunication. People must interpret tone and intention without nonverbal cues, which increases the likelihood of misinterpretation. All these findings reinforce that chat tools alone are insufficient for tasks requiring nuance or detailed clarification. The third challenge relates to data security, privacy, and information management. Studies examining tools such as Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet found that some deleted chat content can still be recovered, revealing data security risks where backend storage and data retention is concerned. Additionally, earlier versions of these tools lack true end-to-end encryption, where organizations unknowingly had to rely on user-configured settings to boost security, which could have introduced organizations to potential data security risk. Without strong governance structures, policies, and training on appropriate use of ICT tools, organizations may inadvertently expose sensitive information. This highlights the tension between fast communication and responsible information management, especially in highly regulated environments. The literature reviewed identifies several approaches to addressing these challenges. For trust deficits, video conferencing and other rich media tools enhance social presence and increase trust, but they introduce challenges like bandwidth constraints and time zone coordination. For miscommunication, multimodal communication strategies combining video, audio, and chat reduce ambiguity. However, many teams default to chat because it's faster and less intrusive. For data security risks, ICT tools with strong default security settings help minimize the impact of user error, yet no tool perfectly balances usability, encryption, and enterprise controls. For inconsistent use of ICT tools, policies and mandatory training programs help standardize use, but they require continuous updates due to evolving technology. These trade-offs show that no single tool or approach fully solves the identified challenges. Synthesizing these findings, we see that chat and instant messaging tools perform well in areas such as ease of use, real-time interaction, frequent updates, and informal, agile communication. However, they fall short in several critical areas, such as trust building, nonverbal cues, structured information storage and retrieval, security and confidentiality, and clarity or active listening. This confirms that chat and IM tools contribute positively but do not meet project communication requirements on their own. They must be used within a broader communication strategy. Looking at the broader landscape, several patterns emerge. First, ICT tools evolve extremely quickly. Features, security protocols, and platform capabilities change at a pace that surpasses or transcends academic research and organizational policy updates. Second, many tools become obsolete within just a few years, meaning organizations must constantly adapt their communication ecosystems. Third, governance mechanisms such as data retention policies, privacy rules, and communication guidelines often lag behind new technological advancements. Finally, fields such as cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and social computing are now heavily shaping virtual communication, suggesting a need for new frameworks that integrate these emerging technologies. This brings us to the future research opportunities that emerged from this review. Key questions included: how frequently should communication and data governance policies be updated given the pace of technological change? Also, what is the optimal balance between digital and in-person communication for building trust and clarity? What are the implications of AI-enhanced communication tools, and how will AI-enhanced communication tools reshape virtual teamwork? And finally, how can global teams operate effectively and compensate for unequal access to technology? These questions reflect gaps in current literature and individual considerations that arose after conducting a thorough literature review on the effective use of informal ICT tools within virtual project teams. Reflecting on this review, several insights stand out. First, ease of use often hides deeper communication risk. We tend to rely on chat tools because they are convenient, but this reliance can compromise clarity, trust, and information integrity. Second, the PMBOK framework remains a valuable lens for assessing the quality of communication in virtual project environments. It exposes where informal ICT tools such as chat and IM tools help and where they fall short. Third, effective communication strategies must be intentional. They require a balance of tools, training, governance, and clear norms or expectations. And finally, technology alone cannot solve communication challenges. Human behavior, team culture, and organizational policies play equally important roles. To conclude, ICT tools, particularly chat and instant messaging, play an essential role in communication within virtual project teams. However, they are not sufficient on their own to support the full communication needs defined by project management frameworks. Effective virtual communication requires a multimodal tool strategy, combining chat, video conferencing, and secure information management systems. Strong governance and data protection policies, clear communication protocols, and adequate training to ensure responsible, secure, and consistent use of ICT tools. The literature makes it clear that while chat tools bring speed and convenience, they must be used intentionally and in combination with complementary strategies to support project success. And as for our project manager, Jane, by the end of the project, she learned that her original message wasn't the problem so much as the channel she relied on. Once she combined chat with brief video check-ins, stored decisions in a proper project management information system, followed clear communication protocols, and made sure everyone knew how to use the ICT tools at their disposal, those misunderstandings essentially disappeared. It was a simple reminder that in virtual project teams, clarity isn't achieved through one perfect tool. It's achieved by choosing the right combination of tools and strategies at the right time. That concludes my presentation. You may find a list of references used throughout my paper and presentation in the following slides. Again, thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I look forward to discussing further throughout the remainder of the week.